Hey, everybody, it's Steve, Doug, and Jeff. We are live with another technical NFT update, TOAX NFT update for you guys today. Before we get into that, I throw over to Jeff. I wanted to kind of clarify where we're finishing up some of the issuance of the gold VIP bonus NFTs. Now, understand there's 1,111 of these bonus NFTs. 10,000 of those are, or 11, wait, is that what it is? 1,111 NFTs, bonus NFTs. 1,000 of those are totally random generated. Okay. The other 111 are the ones that we have at our disposal and at our discretion for bonuses and contests and these other kinds of things that we've been bonusing out. So when we talk about those being distributed, we want you to just understand that this is a real random process on the whole 1,000. When people are buying that, that's totally random. These are only the ones that are being bonused out to people. Okay. So I am going to go ahead and throw it over to Jeff, and he's got some great updates here, and then we'll hit it over to Doug and right back. All right, go ahead, Jeff.
Okay. We just learned this morning that some of the NFTs aren't being displayed inside the browser, and I just wanted to make everybody aware that we are fixing that problem by two things. One, we're going to put up a loading image. So if you see the metadata inside the browser for your NFT, but you actually don't see the image, it's because of something where there's a fairly unreliable storage system that we're creating a much more reliable storage system for, and it's called IPFS. And we're going to be able to make the storage much more reliable, so you'll always be basically guaranteed inside your browser to see your NFT. But if it's for some reason unavailable, we'll put a spinner up so you can see that the image is still loading. So I just want to make everybody aware of that. And then today, the other thing I wanted to make everybody familiar with is just the notion of Web3 and where we've been and where we're going, and how, frankly, we're pretty much on the cutting edge with a lot of this stuff with the dApps and the work that we're doing in the future, both with the exchange as well as the wallet, but currently with both the NFTs and the purchasing operation. If you could throw that up, Steve, I'll just kind of walk through this table for everybody so they can get an understanding of where we're at in the industry today. If you look back into the past, back into the 90s, for instance, the internet, as we call it today, or the web, was what they call a Web 1 system. And the Web 1 was very different from Web 2, which is very different from Web 3. We kind of started out with websites. Our current transition with what you see today, and what most of us use today, is something known as a web app or app model. And the industry is rapidly evolving into a dApp or decentralized application model. Some of the key things that are changing as a result of these changes in technologies, and in particular with what's happened with blockchain technology and the consensus mechanisms and such, is that with Web 1, typically what we had were just read-only websites, and that's where you wouldn't really interact. If you did log in, you'd log in per site. Everything was hosted on an enterprise data center, probably in some big company in an isolated location that was just solely used by them. You also would tend to have like localized data storage. There was nothing like, we didn't have a Dropbox or a OneDrive or a Google Drive type systems back then. And what this created is a very stovepiped ecosystem that created a hierarchy with the value just sitting kind of within the hierarchy up to the corporation or the entity operating the websites. And as anybody who was back there in the 90s, like I was, watching the evolution of the internet, remembered that it was a build it and they will come model. The idea was that these companies just needed to build market share, and that's the only business model they needed to have, and they didn't have to worry about profits or anything else there. And then the user security was also very different, in that you were pretty much responsible on your own for your security, or between you and the entity operating the website. And the good thing, I guess, about this is that it supported more fully anonymous use. Back in the day, a lot of us thought that we'd have, we'd be able to use the internet freely without worrying about surveillance and such. Of course, that's not turned out to be the case as of today. But the other thing this also created was that there was little or no customization or personalization. So if we look at where things are kind of today, and as we make this Web 2 to Web 3 transition, Web 2 kind of was really Google with Gmail that created the very first highly interactive web web app. It was called a single page app with Gmail. And that demonstrated a whole new set of capabilities, particularly with JavaScript and some of the technologies that were used for this. And some of the cool things that happened as a result of these single page apps and these web app models was that you had something called OAuth. So, and probably everybody who's used Google or Facebook is familiar with being able to log in on one site and then just going to the Facebook or the Google site, and then it creates a master login so you can hit a bunch of different sites. But that also creates some other problems, which I'll get to in just a second. It meant that you were using just a handful of cloud service providers. So no longer was there an enterprise data center hosting all this stuff. Instead, you had Google, Amazon, Microsoft, or a bunch of others that were acting as highly centralized computing facilities for Web 2. And it used the cloud storage and computing models, like I just mentioned with Google Drive and such. But what this ultimately created on the downside was what's called a surveillance capitalism business model. There's a great book by a gal named Shoshana Zuboff that goes through how this has really transformed our society. And there's a lot of us that are in the Web3 space recognizing all the problems with this and why we need to rapidly move to Web3 to eliminate that surveillance aspect to capitalism and to use of the internet. But it also meant that all the value accrual was within just that ecosystem's provider, like Amazon or Google would come along. And basically, if you were some third party wanting to extract or enhance the value, you enhanced the value of only that ecosystem and nobody else. It also meant that your identity wasn't sovereign. It wasn't held or controlled by you. It was controlled by an entity like Meta, meaning Facebook or Google or Alphabet. And instead of you owning your own identity and being sovereign around it, it created just a whole host of problems. And we're all pretty familiar with those today. If any of us who are familiar with the censorship or the monitoring of our activities on the internet and such are aware, I'm sure most people have had some experience where they've gone to some website, done a search for something maybe on Google previously, and then suddenly a bunch of ads appear for what they searched on. Or in some cases, like I see it constantly with Android phone users, people who are just talking in conversation, and then lo and behold, the conversation that they just had about having that vacation in Jamaica now appears in a Google search. So this stuff is really invasive and really kind of creepy in many ways. The cool thing about it, of course, though, is that it created a lot of personalization, because the more that these big Silicon Valley behemoths could learn about you, the better they could personalize your experience and maybe make it a bit more convenient for you to use. So that leads us to the emergence of Web3. And with Web3, what we're really creating are sovereign or decentralized dApps. These read and write just like Web 2, but they also give you the ability to reward. You can put bounties, you can extract value through these tokenization models, which TOAX is a part of. And you instead of, say, giving your username and password to log into a site, you can use something known as a zero-knowledge system. And this is where you know your username or password, and instead of giving it up, what you do is you prove to this other system on the other end, the dApp, proves to the services that it uses on the network that it knows the username and password, which is fundamentally much better security, because I'm sure we've all heard of the security vulnerabilities where you lose your username or password on one site and then suddenly you're vulnerable on a whole bunch of other sites. This fundamentally changes that. The other thing that the Web3 model changes is we're moving from these major single service providers into things like more like DAOs or charitable trusts and such, like we have with TOAX, to offer fog-based computing services or fog-based services. So we're going from the cloud into the fog, and as such, this means that things are much more heavily decentralized, and they're not controlled by a single entity like a Google or an Amazon. Instead, they're controlled by us, the users, because we're all probably getting paid in tokens for creating and operating those services. And this is fundamentally what we mean by a crypto capitalism business model, as opposed to a surveillance capitalism business model. And basically what that means is that we can build these network effects so that we can accrue value throughout the network, as opposed to a stovepiped organization like a Google or an Amazon getting all the value accrual for all of our other hard work. And instead, as we put work into the system it goes across the entire network and brings that value back to ourselves through rewards and bounties and such. And then, of course, the other thing is that our identity becomes more sovereign, and we can then create experiences through the personalization that are anonymous, pseudonymous, or provide our full identities with reputation as a result. So just wanted to kind of give everybody a feel for this. We're not only developing to this DApp infrastructure, we're actually creating a lot of the underlying infrastructure with what we're doing on TOAX. So the new stack, the new platform for which we're developing is all based on this Web3 architecture and model. So feel free to hit us up on Discord and ask any questions in this regard. I'll be happy to try to respond as I can. Thank you so much.
All right, Doug, what do you got? You want to share you there, Doug?
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, that was awesome. Thanks, Jeff. That's great. And just for you guys, you NFT holders and you people that are members of the TOAX family now, I mean, this is the future. So we're leading the way on it. We're setting the foundation on the future foundation, which is great. And when I say future, it's not like in the far future. It's like now, present future. So this is where everybody's moving in. This is what OpenSea wanted to do, but they haven't done it yet. This is what Coinbase wanted to do, and they kind of failed miserably at it. But we're starting there, which is great, and it'll just give us give you basically 100% control over everything. Your NFTs, your tokens, it'll be secure. We're also creating our own, basically, for lack of a better term, it's like a private network, private internet that we're going to store this on. It's decentralized. We don't control it. It's all over the place. So it's backed up and all that good stuff where nobody can get it, and it's as secure as you can get in these days. So it's all helps to reinforce keeping your information and your tokens and NFTs private and under your control. There's two cool things, and I'll wrap it up with how we're doing on our progress here. But the U.S. government basically have a law. I'm not sure it's signed into law yet that Bitcoin and Ethereum are commodities, which is good in one sense because they're starting to wrap some regulation and control around it. A lot of the states, like in Wyoming and North Dakota and all the mid states, they actually declare that cryptocurrencies and tokens are personal property. So there's going to be a conflict there, which is good because it's going to have to go through the courts, and then the best way will win out to kind of how it should work. So that's all good. That's all going in a good direction, and it's given a stronger foundation to tokens and cryptocurrency that it's going to be around here for a long, long time. They're starting to say, hey, we can't control this thing, so we might as well jump in and participate. So that's good. And what happens is in that environment, whether they're commodities or whether they're personal property, with these decentralized apps like what we're doing, Web 3.0, these decentralized networks that TOAX is built on, there's no central point of control. Steve, I don't control it. Steve doesn't control it. Jeff doesn't control it. It controls itself through the blockchain, through the smart contracts, and the smart contracts are 100% visible by everybody. So there's no funny business going on, which is great. And when we talk about an easy button, the way that TOAX is actually operating as a business is a blockchain business too. That how we pay people is going to be on the blockchain. It's going to be automatic. Actually, Jeff and I talked about this today in our meeting right before this. Let's say one of our consultants, they worked 40 hours, so they put it in through the app into the blockchain. It gets approved by their superior, and once it's approved, the blockchain handles for them to make the payments and all that stuff. So we're operating as a business like the blockchain, and we're also have a blockchain, and we're also decentralized and all the same kind of stuff. So it's really cool. So wrap up now to go on to, so we're at the bitter end, not bitter, the good end. It's a good end of the audit process. We've audited that everything all the receipts that we have from December till now. Well, not to now, till before we opened up the pre-sale again. Were minted to the addresses that we have on record. And that all we have a report that's done, and we'll publish that report. So now we're just checking on those gold ones that Steve talked about. He issued some ones for bonuses and such. And once we double check that, then we've completed the whole process, and you'll be able to refresh your wallet, and everything's going to be perfect. I'm sure there may be one or two little glitches here and there, but we're working that out. With the I forget who it was. Him and his dad had the same name, and so we had some confusion there, but we're figuring that out. And so this is exciting because the next step is the buy button, and then we're going live, and then we're sharing the revenue after that, which also means the pre-sale window is closing like soon. So just be cognizant of that. That's okay. That's all I wanted to say. I'll throw it back to you, Steve.
Yeah, you know what? I tell you what, I'm so lucky to be surrounded by a couple really bright guys here, and what I'm kind of taking away from that conversation, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, is that you mentioned the three of the behemoths: Amazon, Google, and Facebook. Okay, and from Amazon, you've got Jeff Bezos, who's one of the richest guys in the world, and we've got billionaires that were created from the founders of Google, and you've got Zuckerberg, who's become a billionaire. And it seems to me from what you said is that they were using all this Web 2.0 to their benefit, and that's how they all made billions. Okay. By taking that information and figuring out how to monetize it best for themselves, and they all got filthy rich from it. And now it seems like with the advent here of the Web 3.0 that it's the communities and the people that are involved in these different communities now that are going to be able to reap the same kind of financial rewards as these big giant companies were. These guys have got to be kind of frustrated with this whole Web 3.0. And I'm sure that there's been a lot of pushback from them. Is that correct thinking, Jeff?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. I mean, that's why we see in Washington, D.C., these big corporate behemoths so anti-crypto and so trying to create regulations that are slowing down the adoption of Web3 technologies. But I don't think they're going to be able to stop it. You also have major players like Andreessen Horowitz, A16Z, who say that there's more money to be made with Web3 than there was with Web2. And I think
it's
the difference
is it's not just going to go to like 3 different companies, though, or a handful of companies,
yeah, it's
right?
going to be much more egalitarian and spread out across the communities. So I think the important part is building strong communities that support one another within the community. And that, I think that's where you get your value accrual.
Yeah, that's it. Guys, I saw a quote the other day and it was interesting. I think it was, if what you're doing isn't worth doing, why are you doing it? Right. And I think that, that's what we are really here for, a bigger purpose. Okay. We're really here to really make an impact on the world and really help these charities and foundations and nonprofits and disrupt this whole market. Okay. And, disruption is not comfortable for people. It's a very uncomfortable situation in a lot of different ways. But, I can tell you from past experience with, dealing with my brother and things along these lines that, these charities haven't been able to get the money where it needs to go. They haven't been fulfilling their obligations, and what they started out to be is not what they have become. And, we have an opportunity to really get back into to change that. Okay. And really start to help these different communities. Really excited about where we're going. We've got so many really, really cool things on the horizon. I want to reiterate right now with that, while we're here still in this pre-launch phase, is that you guys that are in here now that have already got some NFTs, get as many as you can right now here before the beta is over, because once beta is over, we're going to start paying out 7% of the gross on all of the rest of our NFTs. Okay. So in the example, let's say that we had 4,000 of our NFTs that are sold up through beta. We got about 6,000 left that we're going to pay not 7% of 1%, because that's typically what this is going to be. You guys that have been in here at the beginning, we're going to pay out 7% of the gross. There's about $10 million worth of inventory, somewhere in that range we're going to have about left. So it's going to be about $700,000 that gets paid out to you guys, okay, to the people that are in here first. And that's going to be paid out in BNB, not Ken's coin, because the Ken's coin isn't live yet, but we want to be able to pay it out in something that is liquid, for you guys right now. So you guys have got an amazing opportunity right now. We're in what we call phase 1. We're still in pre-sale phase. And in the pre-sale phase, if you go to the website to www.toax.io, you can see that there's a matching bonus. If somebody buys 5, they get 1 free, or if somebody buys 10, they get 3 free, that type of thing. And if you refer that person, okay, you're going to get a matching bonus. Once we go to beta, which means the easy button is there, and now we're in the testing phase. Okay, now the referring bonus is going to go away, and the bonuses are going to diminish. They're going to be less than what they were. Okay, and then once we go into the final phase, okay, that's when we start making payouts to everybody. Okay, once we get into the final phase. So you guys are in the catbird seat. Okay, you're in a really, really great spot. Okay, we are the only ones out there that are doing this Web 3.0. Okay, and these guys can't change what they're doing, guys. The guys that are out there now that have got market share, the Coinbases and the Binances and all, you can't flip a switch and just move from 2.0 to 3.0. Right, Jeff? I mean, it's just not quite that easy.
Well, yeah, you got to change your underlying foundation. Yeah, you're building on top of a new foundation, and in many cases, you have to build the foundation itself in order to create the dApps on that foundation.
Right. So, we're going to be starting from that situation where nobody's ever started from this situation before with what we're doing. So we are just in a really, really exciting spot. We're going to just have a lot of fun with this, and we're going to really be able to make a lot of impact. Once we get this buy button down there, then we're going to start to talk about some of the other really cool things that we're doing. And we just don't want to overload you with all those other things. We've got charities lined up that we're going to bring on. We'll start talking about those, but it's just kind of one foot in front of the other. We just want to stay focused on what we're doing here right now. So they are working.
Yep.
I guess he
froze. We lost Steve.
That's a bummer. Yeah. So we're like I said, we're wrapping up this phase 1, and I think Steve pretty clearly outlined the benefit of referring others. I mean, the referring others is awesome because whatever they buy, if they get a bonus, you get a matching bonus. It's really cool. So we'll wrap it up here. We'll figure out what happened to Steve. Hopefully, he's still breathing and stuff. I'm sure he is. But they're having flash flood problems over there in the Philippines. So he's going to be back in the States in about a week, though. But thanks for joining us. Keep an eye on Discord. If you're not on Discord, email support at there you are.
There you are.
Guys, let me finish up. I'll throw it right back to you. Email support at TOAX.io. If you're not, if you don't have the Discord link, Discord's a great place to monitor because we're given like minute by minute almost updates to what's going on there, and that's where the report is going to be published with the auditing and all that good stuff. So I'm done. I'll throw it back to you, Steve.
All right. Can you throw a link to that Discord in there so everybody can?
Yes, I can.
So those are there. Yeah, sorry about the power outage, guys. It is over where I'm at in this part of the world. It's the 10th of August, so I'm going to be back in the U.S. in 12 days. I'm excited to get back there and get back where I've got steady connections, and it's going to be nice to get back on that part of the world, and we're going to be back based out there and for the immediate future. So real excited about things. When are we going to do our next update here, Doug? We going to do something on Thursday or Friday?
Yeah, we'll definitely do one Friday. I was thinking we may do some education stuff tomorrow if you're up for it. I don't know. We'll have to see, but we're definitely going to have one on Friday. Okay.
All right. Yeah. So stay tuned, guys. Again, if you get a chance, head over to www.toax.io. Refer people. One of the other things that I mentioned last time is you leaders out there, dig deep in your organization. Okay. Don't go past your first personal referrals, and don't worry if they get referred. We will take care of you over and above. Those that you go above and beyond, we're going to go above and beyond and take care of you for any bonuses. So if you reach down into your group and say, "Hey, I've got somebody who bought 5, or I got somebody who bought 10, I got somebody who bought 20, whatever, let us know, and so we can make sure that we can take care of you." We're coming up on the very last times, guys, where you're going to be able to get these free, NFTs for referring people. And, we're going to be in a pretty exclusive club, guys. We're going to ultimately have our 10,000 NFTs, and we're doing the same exact thing for 2 charities. So we're going to have 30,000 NFTs that are in what we call the TOAX collection. Okay. And the people that have that are going to be in a very, very exclusive club. Okay. This club is the only club in the world that's going to be paying you money every single day. Okay. For generations to come. And the only way to get in is to have an NFT. If you only have one NFT and you sell your NFT, you are now out of the club. Okay. But if you've got a whole bunch of them, if you wanted to sell one, you could. And I'm sure you could probably get a pretty amazing amount for it when people start seeing returns come in. Because as far as I know, we're the only revenue producing NFTs, on the planet. So that's all I've got for today. Thank you guys for both being on. Thanks, Jeff, for being here for the update. I know it pulls you away from getting stuff done. We will be back. If not tomorrow, we will definitely be back on Friday. Thank you all. We appreciate you, and we will talk to you soon.